Hey everyone, thank you for stopping by the channel. If you enjoy what Ray Cabana and I do, be sure to hit subscribe and enable the bell for notifications for more videos on abandoned places, mysteries, and cool things around the world. Also, don't forget to check us out on social media, links are in the description. If you enjoy cooking, video games, anime, and all things nerd culture, be sure to check out my second channel, Kabanov's Corner, as I prepare for Season 2 releasing in October. When we hit 1,000 subscribers, I will try the durian fruit on video. Anyway, now on to the show. What's up guys, Justin with the Podcast Dojo. Today on Abandoned Locations, I'm going to be remaking another one of my old videos. I will be remaking the second video I ever made on the Cloverleaf Mall in Chesterfield, Virginia. I felt the original video was too short, and as a result, I kept finding new and interesting information on it. I will leave an unlisted link in the description below if you would like to see how the original sounded and looked. But regardless, onward and upward, and let's revisit Cloverleaf Mall. Cloverleaf Mall opened in August of 1972, right outside of south side of Richmond and in Chesterfield County, right off of Chippenham Highway. It stole JCPenney's from the nearby Southside Plaza, and also had a Tallheimers and a Sears as their original anchors. JCPenney's was the state's largest JCPenney's at one time. Miller and Rhodes, Tallheimers' biggest rival, was supposed to open at the mall as well, but they had a contract that forbid them from opening a store 5 miles away from another one. Southside Plaza had a Miller and Rhodes, and they were only 4 miles away. The mall was very successful for quite some time, even after Chesterfield Town Center opened up 3 years after Cloverleaf opened. Chesterfield Town Center was only about 5 miles away from Cloverleaf. Renovations were done to Cloverleaf in the late 80s or early 90s to add a food court to the mall. A neat fact about this mall: the animated show from the 90s, Doug, was created by Jim Jenkins, who was a Richmond native, and based the city of Bluffington off on Richmond, Virginia. Ever wondered where Four Leaf Clover Mall got its name? Well, look no further than Cloverleaf Mall. As I mentioned, the mall did great in the 70s and 80s, but it was the early 90s where things would start to take a slow downfall. In 1992, the May Company would purchase Tallheimers and Miller and Rhodes, converting them into Hecht's stores. Hecht's was considered a downgrade from Tallheimers, which meant lower quality products. Sears was also reduced to a one-floor store. A big controversy surrounding the mall is that buses were not allowed to come directly to the mall. Instead, residents had to be dropped off at the nearby Kmart and would have to walk to the mall. However, after countless court battles, a bus stop was allowed in the mall parking lot. While I think it's great to give more people access to the mall, I feel like every mall story I've ever read where public transportation is added to a mall, things go downhill very fast, and that is exactly what happened here. Midlothian, which is where the mall was located, has two sides. On the west side of Midlothian, you have a lot of your upper middle class. This is also where the Chesterfield Town Center was located. However, on the east side, which is more where Cloverleaf was located, is Sketch City. You have lots of seedy motels, low-budget strip clubs, and of course a lot of drugs and crime. Speaking of, in 1996, 2 women who worked at the dollar store were killed by an unknown assailant. I've done another video talking about this crime more in depth, so I'll leave a link in annotation to that. But these women never came home from work and were found stabbed to death with the safe cleaned out. To this day, the case has never been solved. As a result of the murders, the mall received the nickname the Murder Mall. There was also a media circus surrounding this incident for months. I think it wasn't just the media circus, but I also think the fact that the perpetrator was never caught added to people not coming to the mall. After all, was this a one-time crime, or was there some serial killer on the loose? Because of the media circus, people took their money to Chesterfield Town Center because it was deemed safer. Parents even stopped letting their kids work part-time jobs at Cloverleaf out of fear for their safety. Something I found interesting is that if you go on Wikipedia and search for Dead Mall, under the category for socioeconomic decline, it uses Cloverleaf as an example. I just find it interesting that out of all the malls in the United States, Cloverleaf was chosen as the textbook example for a dangerous mall. Even BuzzFeed had Cloverleaf on their list for interesting abandoned malls. Cloverleaf became known as a place where teen gangs would hang out. But it wasn't just crime that became a problem. In 2000, JCPenney's closed up shop and moved to Chesterfield Town Center, where it is still located today. Sears would leave in 2002 and also go to Chesterfield Town Center. It is currently the last remaining Sears in Richmond, Virginia. Hecht's would close in 2003 but did not relocate from what I read. However, I believe the final nail in the coffin for Cloverleaf was the opening of the nearby Stony Point Fashion Park. Stony Point Fashion Park was an outdoor shopping center with a more upscale layout and store options. Surprisingly, Cloverleaf held on for another 5 years until February of 2008 when the mall announced they were closing for good. It surprises me that they stayed open for so long because on my old video, people told me just how eerie the mall was in its final days. The food court, that was once filled with a lot of dining options, was now reduced to a vending machine or two. There were next to no stores, just a few privately owned ones. I actually went to Cloverleaf Mall in 1997 for a Boy Scout event, but I honestly don't remember much outside of the food court. Funny enough, I learned to drive in the mall parking lot in 2005, and at that point I honestly thought the mall was abandoned already. Because after all, as a kid growing up in the 90s, what kind of mall parking lot is abandoned, or has almost no cars in it? But it's also because nobody talked about the mall anymore, and even when they did, they just talked about how scary it had become. What's interesting to think about is what if Chesterfield Mall hadn't opened? Had that happened, I think the upper middle class would likely have just taken their money to the local Regency or Virginia Center Commons Mall until the Stony Point Fashion Park inevitably opened up. Regardless, I just think Cloverleaf Mall stood no chance with the shift in demographics in the area. In 2005, a church wanted to purchase the mall and turn it into a multi-purpose facility, but the county fought against that and bought the mall for themselves, including the privately owned Sears for way more than what the Sears was actually worth. The mall was demolished in 2011, and all that remains is the Firestone Auto Center, which I believe operated out of the JCPenney's. Other than that, the place has been renovated to add a very large Kroger and many upscale shops surrounding the areas, as well as apartments and stores. So anyway, that was my redo on Cloverleaf Mall. I hope you enjoyed the video, I hope you learned something, and let me know down below if you ever went to Cloverleaf Mall.